Thanks so much for checking out another weekly segment that I do, a show with my good friend 30 and Still Gaming, and this week, debating and breaking down Summer Game Fest, the kickoff evening event with Geoff Keighley. We are doing this about halfway through Summer Game Fest. There's still big things to come. The Xbox Showcase, the PC Game Showcase, Future Game Show, Ubit Forward. We will be co-streaming all those things here on Reforge Gaming, but midway through, we thought the kickoff event with Keighley was a good thing to discuss and debate, and so we will be doing that with a live audience. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss these shows, especially if you're one of the newer members. We have a lot of great members incentives and things coming up for you, and I'm going to end that previous stream where I was giving my own review of the show and everything that I thought. As you come over, do me a favor, smash the heck out of that like button. We usually struggle with that on Fridays because I'm talking with Mike and I can't ask you for likes. So I want to open the show, Mike, and just get your thoughts on the show, because I was kind of taken aback by, during the show, this wasn't just toxic Twitter, because, you know, Twitter is the toxic Avenger in many ways. In many ways. But I saw it in my chat. I saw it during the stream. I saw a lot of people saying that the show was mid, that the show was boring, or that they didn't think it was very good. And I was not expecting to see that at all. I was on a very different wavelength with the show and felt a very different vibe during the entire time. So what were your thoughts in general about the showcase as you watched it?
Overall, I thought the show was good. I thought it was great, actually. They showed a lot of games. They, showed trailers. They showed gameplay. They did what they were set to do, and I thought Keighley did a fantastic job. And each year he does it. I think it was a little adjustment as far as the live crowd there.
Yeah.
But other than that, there was a couple of low points where, and I've complained about this every E3 in the past, and also Summer Game Fest, when they bring people up on stage and they start talking about stuff, it's like at that moment those two people forget there's like a crowd watching them and like millions of people watching on the internet. And I always think it's funny. I'm like no one cares. Like, everybody in the audience doesn't care what that person's saying at that moment. They just want to see the gameplay, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just the hard truth, right? So I always find it weird because this whole weekend they could interview those developers after and get their thoughts and what it means and how long it took to do all that stuff. And that whole celebrity with Nicolas Cage on stage, that always does a full stop, a break. It's just like, oh God, I hate when they do that stuff. I'm a gamer. Look at me. I'm in games now, right? Type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's super cringe. Other than those like slow points, I thought the actual show itself was great. I mean, as a gamer, back in the day, I used to love turning on G4 and watching them cover E3. And I didn't have any expectations back then. It was just watching the show and getting knowledge. Going, oh man, I didn't know about that game. I didn't know about that. Oh, that looks cool. I get that the same way. Now I'm older. And yeah, I'm a little desensitized, but at the same time, there's a ton of games and I just know they're not for me, right?
I'm surprised. I thought the Nick Cage thing was great.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like he was honest about not being a gamer. He said he had somebody in his house who was gamer. He was thrilled to try out something new and a new art form. I thought he was so on point. I think he has like this gravitas and this presence. I loved it. I get when it's like, I don't know. I feel like when they did Pacino at the Game Awards, that was rough because he's older and couldn't see the cue, the teleprompter. But I don't know. I thought Nick Cage was stellar.
Let me be clear. I come from a different background. I worked in Hollywood for 20 years. So celebrities to me is like super cringe when they come on stage and they pretend they're something they're not. You know what I mean? I know they're actors. That's exactly right. But I made a comment while I was doing it live. I was like, Nicolas Cage walked off that stage, dropped the mic, handed him a check, and he walked off out the back door. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're there for. You know, I understand. Like he's adapting just like any other business would adapt. And as an actor, he wants to get into the video game space, and this is what he did. And he's doing what he has to do to survive in this industry.
Yeah, and it definitely felt like they were trying to kind of have a Keanu moment, and I think they did. I think for Keighley, if you're thinking about Geoff Keighley, if you're thinking about the event, this was a win, even if you yourself are like, celebrities.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
he walked off the stage and just collected a check. You're definitely right. You know, he did not do this because he loves video games. He did this because it was an opportunity to put his face somewhere else. And I was happy for Keighley. I was like, number one, he kept it a huge secret. I felt like this was a pretty huge secret. He kept it a secret. Nobody knew, and I think it was a pleasant surprise. And that was the thing I thought surprised me the most. Before we kind of get into the meat of the show, just big picture here, they really kept the surprises quiet. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like, that was heavily hinted at on Twitter by them. They did 7 days of tweets leading up to that day. But the Prince of Persia surprise, Nicolas Cage being there, they dropped the demo of Lies of P, the Sonic Superstars game. I was like, wow, there's a lot of things that weren't ruined by leakers. Right. Because the PlayStation Showcase was super weak, but one of their big moments was the Metal Gear game, and everybody knew going in. It was like, yeah, fine, we know about that.
Yeah, the problem with the industry and technology and just the way it is today. Back in the day, I said this last night on my podcast. When I was a kid, the only way I knew a new game was coming was getting a Nintendo Power, right? Like, I would open up the Nintendo Power and there would be like a little paragraph with one picture of a thing. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then as it got closer, you get the next Nintendo Power, and then there'd be like a half-page spread or a full-page spread, or there would be multiple pages of a game that was like a big game coming out, a AAA game coming out back then, right? And you were like so excited to see when that comes out, and then it came out, and then you played the game. And then as technology happened and internet happened and Twitter happened, you know, the only way you could watch it, like I said before, was G4 TV. That was the only place you could cover it. Now there's you and me and millions of other people that have their own YouTube channels. So we're all saying the same thing. We're all watching the same stuff. There's so many outlets to watch, and whoever you want to watch it with. And there's nothing that's a secret anymore. There's nothing that's like treasured anymore. You know about a game 6 months before they even show the game because of a leak, and you're like, oh, I saw that on 4chan. I saw that on Reddit. I saw that on Twitter. I saw this on this. So when the actual game comes out, you're not excited anymore. You see it and you're like, I already knew about it. So it's not a big deal. Even though majority of the population still didn't know about that game, everyone's like, it was mid. I already knew about that game because it's 6 months ago. It's like, yeah, but that's not their fault.
Yeah.
Right? Their fault is that's the show. They were showing you what's out there. So
it's like, I remember experiencing this one year at E3 where big Destiny fans that knew everything, read every blog post, followed every single, breadcrumb and CM and leak, and then they would watch E3. And there would be the big event, and they'd show the trailer, and they'd announce everything. And then they would go and do an interview, and we would watch the interview and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. The CMs are sitting down and answering questions. And then they would go from the interview with IGN, and then they would go do an interview with YouTube or Geoff Keighley or somebody. And I remember fans getting very angry. Well, there was no new information in that interview. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute.
Right.
They're going to go to every outlet and go through the same talking points. Your expectations all out of whack here. You're too plugged in. I think that's a microcosm of what we're experiencing with these new showcase styles, where instead of saying, this is our only chance, we get one time a year to talk to everybody, we got to announce everything, so it's just nonstop bangers and big AAA games that are 4 and 5 years away. Instead of that, it's more controlled. It's, hey, you saw a cinematic trailer for this, now here's gameplay and here's a release date. Oh, well, I already knew about that game. I'm not as excited because I already knew about that game.
Yep. Well, I mean, look at Mortal Kombat. We saw it, last week? They saw the trailer last week, and we were like, man, that's an awesome trailer. Right. Now, this week, you saw it more of the trailers. Some of the same stuff, but they showed gameplay and a lot more new stuff. And everyone's like, already saw it. And I totally get it, right? And you look at it and go, well, why do they even have to show the same stuff? Like, people's expectations for Xbox Showcase that's coming up, people are going to be majorly disappointed because you're going to see the exact same, not exactly. Let me reword that because I know people take it for exact. You're going to see Immortals of Aveum again, or you're going to see something that's running on that console because they're selling consoles. They're trying to sell the game. They're trying to sell Game Pass. They're trying to sell whatever they're trying to sell. And they're going to show you the same type of trailer you maybe saw at PlayStation. Maybe you saw at Summer Game Fest. Maybe you saw on Twitter. Maybe you saw on their own website when that company put out their trailer for more. So again, it's what have you done for me lately? This world that we live in today is now. And you, if you don't get something new, And as soon as you watch it, it's already over, right? You're like, you've seen it, you watched it for a minute and a half, you're like, that's old news. I'm ready to, what have you done for me lately? What's the next hot new thing that I should know about? And if you see 2 times of it, you're like, boring. Like, it's like an 8-year-old. It's like an 8-year-old.
Right. And the thing that kills me is it's like they're their own worst enemy, because the only reason that you know everything that you know is because you crawl over Twitter, you crawl over the internet, and you know everything. I did a video the day before, not the game the day before. That game doesn't exist. I did a video the day before, and I said, here are my expectations for the showcase, right? And I said, here are the 11 confirmed appearances. Say, here's the 11 confirmed appearances. And I had people telling me, well, that's probably all he's going to have, just those 11. So they were already doing that thing where it's like, well, you're on Twitter, you're checking for every breadcrumb, every announcement, and now that you know the 11 that are going to be there, well, you're already being pessimistic, and he brings 47 appearances. Now, yes, some of those appearances were just trailers with gameplay to announce a release date, but that's still an appearance. Oh, it's a commercial. What do you mean? Like, as an example, Witchfire. The Witchfire trailer was just new gameplay and them announcing September 20th early access. That's great. That's what I'm there to see. I want to see gameplay and release dates, and I got it.
You got both of those in one trailer.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
11 confirmed appearances seemed like, well, that's all the show is going to be, and then there's 47, and that's somehow not enough.
Well, did you get someone to come in your chat and be like, well, we already saw 10 of those things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're going to get into the meat. We're at 30,000 feet right now, thinking impact, big picture. What's everybody talking about? What's everybody saying? Xbox Showcase, everybody's going to say that I'm being a pony and that I'm trashing Xbox. I'm being honest. I think PlayStation and Keighley made things really tough on Xbox, because what's left in the third-party bin? What's left?
They could show Armored Core. I mean, we've already seen it. We've already seen it.
But it's right around the corner, and I was surprised that Armored Core wasn't at Keighley's event. That could be a big win for Xbox. I definitely agree with that.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, but you're right. It's like, but if we're talking about the Xbox real fast, I want to know first-party titles about the stuff. I don't care about third-party stuff, right? For instance, I have an Xbox, but the games I bought this year, Hogwarts Legacy, Jedi Survivor, and Diablo. None of those, as of yet, are first-party titles. Obviously, Diablo might be a first-party title down the road. Okay, but all 3 of those games are third-party titles. I don't care where to play them. I just happen to have an Xbox, and I bought those games on an Xbox. I haven't bought a first-party title. Why is that? Well, because all first-party title games are on Game Pass, so I just play those games when they come to Game Pass, right? So I want to see what they have in the future for Xbox down the road for first-party titles. Third-party titles, I know they're coming. Unless they're exclusive, like Final Fantasy 16, which is coming to PlayStation, or Spider-Man 2, but I know where to get those, right? So you're right. It is a hard predicament for them, like, because any third-party thing that they show, we've already seen, or we thought we already seen, right? So they have to pull something out of. The only thing I was disappointed, and this is personal, I was waiting to hear something about Transformers Reactivate. I thought for sure we would get something this summer from it, but I do know they're hiring. They're doing a lot of hiring for the company, and the people that I know that are really close, the leakers and stuff that I talked to, they thought we were going to get something during the summer because they're supposed to be an open beta and something. So I was excited, and that didn't happen. So I was just like, but I didn't take that as going, oh, that's an F for Summer Game Fest because they didn't show the things that I wanted them to show me, right? You know what I mean? So, like, I thought the show itself was fantastic. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't see Transformers Reactivate. Hopefully, there's still a chance. We still got the Future Game Show. We still got the PC Gaming Show. We still got Xbox. Who knows? Maybe they'll show a trailer there as well. I don't know. That was it. But personally, I was disappointed in that one thing, but not disappointed in the show at all.
I want to read what Mike S. is putting in chat, because I think this is a perspective that I think this isn't hate or me trashing Xbox. I think this perspective that I'm about to read is one shared by the public, especially the very plugged-in gaming public, which will make it hard on Xbox. He says, we know it exists as well. We've seen a lot of Armored Core. I actually don't agree with that. We've not seen a lot of Armored Core. They've done one trailer with snippets of gameplay. We've not seen HUD. We've not seen raw gameplay. We've seen snippets in a montage. He says, a mid-showcase for me would be a showing of all games we already know about. It's all about the surprises and the first looks. See, but the challenge with that is you're so plugged in, what do you not know about? You know about Avowed. You know about Fable. You know about Hellblade 2. You know about everything that they're potentially working on. Everwild. Like, there's not a stone left that hasn't... Oh, my gosh. That would not... I don't know if that would be the win people think it is, unless it lands and is amazing. I don't think Scalebound would be an oh my gosh moment. I don't know if it would.
Be like, oh, they scrapped it and they're just scrapping something together. You know what I mean? Like, but that would be new, right? Because that's something that was 5-6 years ago was supposed to come out, and then they canceled it, and then they potentially brought it back. So we might see something that would be a surprise.
Yeah. Somebody says, I was hoping to see Phantom Liberty. Cyberpunk is there on the floor. They're allowing the press, and they're allowing hands-on for content creators. You will see reviews, previews, and hands-on response to Phantom Liberty in the coming week.
Well, that's another point. Why do these companies need to go to Summer Game Fest? Why do they need to... They could just... I said an example the other day. I forget who in my channel said it, and I've said it in my Discord, but someone said it in my channel, and it sticks to my head. They could, GTA, Rockstar, could literally say nothing and change their logo on Twitter to look as a tip towards Grand Theft Auto 6, and the internet would explode, right? So, like, why do companies need to use Summer Game Fest or come to a third party? I'm talking third party. Why do they need to show up to Xbox? Why do they need to show up to PlayStation? Why do they need to show up to Keighley Fest, as I call it? Okay, they don't. They could literally tweet out, show a trailer any day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pick a day, any day of 365 days to show what they want, and they're going to get the exact same reaction and spread of people that are really hyped about that game, no matter what they do.
I think it's good to show up to these events because it's a hot focal moment, and that's what Keighley succeeded in. He proved that the big boys will come to the show. Fortnite was there. Call of Duty was there. Xbox announced that, the Porsche console and controller. Spider-Man 2 saved their release date for this event. There's theories about whether or not that was planned. I think it was. I mean, even Marvel Snap is a pretty big player to be there, along with the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth announcement. So I think he proved, hey, we're all getting everybody together here. It's kind of like a big concert festival. If everybody's going to be there, there's tons of people that show up, so there's a reason to have a presence. So I think he proved concept this year. Last year, I felt like he got breadcrumbs. It was like he had nothing major, and then his big show ender was The Last of Us remake, and that got ruined that morning.
I think the problem though with the method now is that up until yesterday, there was no live show anymore. It was just all pre-taped, and that was Summer Game Fest. This is their first live audience in the 4 or 5 years that he's done it, right? So, has it been 5 years already?
I don't know how many years he's done this, but he started this because I think
it was 2019, right, or 2020.
It was 2020 because I was a part of it in 2020. I did that thing with Kelly Link and Ocadrian.
That's right.
And I think that was the first year because in 2019, E3 was still going strong. I mean, I was there main stage hosting, and then the next year we had to do everything digital.
Right. So, like when you go to these conferences and stuff like that, what's really cool is everyone gets to come to the conference. They get to see the live show. Yes, people outside get to watch it as well. But the people that are there get to put their hands on the game. They get to talk to the devs. They get to get more interaction. And that's like the 1% crowd, right? The 1% crowd is showing up and then there's the media outlets that then spread the wild, like the water cooler stuff to their social medias and whatnot. With this, there's no, we're watching, and the people that are there, there's booths and stuff now, but that's just turning it back into like an E3 again, isn't it not? I mean, they have breakout rooms and different things, and they're doing an E3 thing again. I think what they need to do, what Keighley needs to do, and Steam does this, there's certain demos that come out and whatnot for PC. I think the big shows like PlayStation and Xbox, anytime they show a game third party, they should have a dedicated free demo. Like anything you saw on the show today, you can play a 1 hour demo, 10-minute demo of the game to really sell that to you. You know what I mean? And I get not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
But if they want to take it to the next step, because I mean, look at it now. There's tons of games that give you early access, early beta, demo, whatever, by themselves. But for these events, they should line up something and go, hey, if you're watching this live right now, if you type in this code, blah, 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 right, you can play the demo right now on the Xbox, on the PlayStation, on your computer.
I just think the biggest barrier there would be involvement. You're creating a barrier for involvement. I think you're right that game companies should think strategically and try to do that. But if they can't, you'd still want them to be involved. Because I thought it was awesome that they dropped the Lies of P demo. That's great. That's a great thing to announce. Like, demo available now. Like, I think we might see more of that. I think demo and trial culture is going to start to take over again, because it's a bygone era that needs to come back. I think people like to play the game ahead of time, and then they can make their purchase with confidence. And then the Final Fantasy 16 demo on Sunday, I've had some theories in my ear that people think that Sony's going to strike again on Sunday. They're going to try to keep taking the wind out of Xbox's sails to be like, okay, well, we gobbled up a bunch of the third party that we know you're going to show, and then we showed up to Summer Game Fest to make sure everybody's talking about Spider-Man again, because their top-of-mind marketing strategy, I think, is quite brilliant. And then Sunday, if they drop the Final Fantasy 16 demo, that could be massive. That would be that would make headlines. Then all of a sudden you're once again top of mind marketing. They're talking about the PlayStation 5 in the mix of all of that. So
right.
What is there, given everything we saw in this showcase, I want to shift maybe a little bit more now to the specifics.
Mm-hmm.
What were the standouts for you? Because I had 15 high points out of the 47, 15 things that I thought, oh man, that's a big win for the showcase. What were the standouts for you?
Okay, so I don't know if anyone can really see this, but you see those little dashes next to the names and whatnot. Don't look at my chicken scratch. I was interested, and that's just one page. I have the second page where I have another one. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I had 16 things that I was interested in from yesterday's show, right?
Well, yeah, I had 15. You had 16. So you're the fanboy,
right? I like yeah, right. By the one. This doesn't mean I would buy the game in any way, shape, or form, right? It just means I'm intrigued by it, and I could play it down the road at full price, on a sale or whatever. So Prince of Persia, I thought was a surprise. I knew it was happening. I wasn't expecting to see anything about it. And I thought it was interesting the way they went the route for the stylization of it. So Mortal Kombat, I haven't played a Mortal Kombat game. It's got to be a decade, right? Is the last time I played a Mortal Kombat game. But it still looked really cool. And I think that's a big win for a lot of people. Path of Exile 2, right?
Yeah,
I was interested because I'm playing Diablo. I was like, oh well, maybe I'll attempt a Path of Exile. Witchfire, I thought was interesting looking. I was that looked really cool to me, and I was just like, I know nothing about it, but that trailer that I watched intrigued me to look more into it and keep pace for it when it comes out. Right?
We're currently step in step. Like you're highlighting the same things I'm highlighting. Just to touch on a few of those.
Yeah, that's fine.
Path of Exile 2 is apparently going to be more accessible than Path of Exile is right now, so I'm very interested in that. I won't need a spreadsheet to build a character. Witchfire, I do think, is a shooter to pay attention to. I don't even like rogues, and I really want to play Witchfire.
Yeah, it just looked really interesting. Yeah,
so fun, and some of the shooting reminds me a little bit of Destiny, the way the guns handle. And Prince of Persia is unfairly getting kind of taken to the cleaners. People are really unhappy, and I don't know why. I thought it looked fantastic. I love side-scrollers. Everybody complains about all we get are third-person action games. I don't understand what the problem with this game is.
Did you ever play Shadow Complex from Epic? Or that's what it reminded me of. Like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of Shadow Complex, right? Which is a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Remnant 2. I don't know if you play Remnant 1.
I tried it. It was a little too clunky for me.
Yes. I played it for about 10, 15 hours, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't do it. Right.
Yeah,
but I thought it was interesting. But Remnant 2 looked interesting. I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll give it a shot down the road. Lies of P, obviously, it's interesting. Not my type of game, but I'll give it a shot. And why is that, chat? Do you know why I'll give it a shot, chat? That's right, because it's on Game Pass. All right.
No, there's a demo. There's a. that's why you should. I know it's on Game. I know it's on Game Pass.
I'm saying when it comes out, I'm saying I'll try it because it's on Game Pass.
I saw people on Twitter already besmirching the title because it's going to be on Game Pass, and I'm like, slow down. This game has looked impressive from moment one, from an art style perspective. Like, already besmirching it because, like, oh, it's going to be Game Pass fodder. Are you kidding me? The game has an art style reminiscent of Bloodborne. I think it'll sell quite well on the PlayStation ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm not the.
I know you're not. I know you're not doing that.
Yeah, I'm saying that I wouldn't be interested in it at all, right? Like, it looks cool, not my cup of tea, but because it's on Game Pass, I'm gonna give it a shot, right?
Yeah, I know. I gotcha.
Warhaven. I don't know if you saw that. Now, I played a game recently called, I think it was called Warlander. And it's more of a cartoony style, but Warhaven looked more like For Honor type of art style and whatnot, and that seemed interesting. Where it's like medieval, you're battling, try to get capture points. A little bit like, I don't know if you've ever played Chivalry or Chivalry 2.
I wrote down that it looked like For Honor on steroids. I thought it looked really cool. Now, that wasn't a standout for me, but I had 15 high points. That was one that I'd be interested in. Like, I don't know if I'd play it for a lot of time, but I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Another kind of For Honor style game. You passed over Sonic Superstars. What'd you think of that one?
No, I did have it. I did pass over it. That's the first thing I did. I talked to my son. I was like, they have Sonic Superstars, because he just started playing Sonic games about 2 years ago or whatever. And I said, they have Sonic Superstars. He's like, what's Superstars? I was like, because he doesn't know. I was like, they took the old Sonic games and they redid them for you. I was like, better graphics, better stuff. He's like, oh, cool. And I showed him the trailer. He was like, oh yeah. He's like, can I get that for the Switch? I was like, well, it's coming out for the Xbox and stuff. He's like, yeah, but then I can't play it on the road. I was like, okay, so he wants me to get it for the Switch.
The next generation of gamers speaks. They want to be able to game on the go. I told my kids about the Sonic game, and I was very excited because it looks like you can play with 4 people. And I was like, they were really.
Is it 4?
They showed four characters on the screen at the same time. Now, I don't know if that's one person switching between, but it looked like a game that you could play.
I thought it did look co-op. I didn't know if it was more than 2. That's I was confused there. Yeah.
We'll have to get more details, because I was pumped when I saw that. They were immediately asking me about certain characters, like, is so and so in it? Is so and so in it? I was like, because they've seen the movies. Yeah, Sonic's kind of having a bit of a moment, a bit of a comeback.
Thank God they redid them for the movie, because it would have been horrific.
That choice, in some respects, is kind of single-handedly saved the franchise. I believe that. I believe that choice to remake that movie has saved Sonic.
Yeah, Young Indy is saying, but you can play Xbox games on the go, though. Yeah, you can, but my 8-year-old doesn't care about that stuff. He just wants to put the console in his hand, sit in the back of the car, and play it without Wi-Fi or anything else that you have to need. He just wants to play the game. So you can debate my 8-year-old and see if he agrees with you. Alan Wake 2.
Yes.
It's been, 13 years since the last Alan Wake. Never played it, but I watched another content creator out there. I won't name the name, but watched him play through the entire campaign and stuff. It's cool. I'm interested in watching someone play it, but I'm not interested in playing it myself. Right?
Yeah, I think Alan Wake is a standout because of the graphics. It really, really looked reminiscent of Resident Evil. I thought it was beautiful. And I do have an article here from The Gamer about Sonic Superstars. They've got a screenshot of 4 characters on the screen at the same time. Cool. And they're talking about Sonic Superstars is a 4-player co-op game, and that rarely works in this genre. So they are saying that could be one of the things that hurts it, but that seems like not necessarily direct from the dev, but the Gamer confirming at least that it is a 4-player co-op game.
Well, if it's a 4-player co-op, it's a definite buy for our house, because my son loves playing like the Mario games with me and my wife and his cousin. So another game that we can add to the repertoire of stuff.
Definitely.
The next game that I thought was I knew about it for a while was the Warhammer 40K, right? Space Marines. That game I was interested in, but now it's an instant buy for me because it's co-op, and it's one of those games that me and Sarge play games like that all the time, and because we played Halo all the way through, every single one except the last one, and we played Gears of War, all of them together. We love Warhammer, and because it's co-op, this was an instant buy for me. So Warhammer 40K Space Marine, it looked amazing, right? It looked amazing. Toxic Commandos looked. I know it's another zombie game, right? But it's I believe it's co-op. It looked like it was co-op.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it is 4-player co-op.
Yeah, and it just looks like stupid fun. It almost looks like Sarge said it last night on the show. It looks like what Left 4 Dead was back in the day, right? Just stupid fun, great. Which is different than Back 4 Blood. Again, we don't know anything about it. We don't know the meats and potatoes of it, but it just looks like a fun game.
Yeah, and I've told people that it seems like there's a bit of a resurgence of that game type because you have Aliens Fireteam, you have Starship Troopers, you have Helldivers, and now you have this game. And I really, really think we're having kind of a resurgence of that, and I don't know who's going to be left standing because I love the idea of a shoot some aliens on a Friday night with the boys, right? Thank you, Stephen Marson, for gifting a member. And guys, make sure you're smashing the like button if you're enjoying the show. But I do wonder, that resurgence, this feels somewhat in line with the commentary about The Last of Us factions getting potentially canceled or stalled out because it wasn't going to be a game that got ongoing engagement. These games like this, Toxic Commando, do these games have any aspirations of lasting? Because they do seem like the type of game that you'd play it for a couple of weekends and then probably move on.
Yeah, no, those type of games, the Back 4 Blood, the Alien. What was the Alien one that was the co-op shooter one? What was the one that just came out?
Aliens Fireteam.
Fireteam. Yeah, there's Fireteam, Back 4 Blood, the Toxic Commandos, like those type of games. They're not bad games. They're just games that you would have fun with your friends on the weekend. Maybe one weekend. Maybe it's a couple weekends. Maybe it's you play it just a couple days, but over a couple of months. You know what I mean? But it's still just a fun time together. And if you're a content creator, it's a definite buy because other content creators can play with each other and have a good entertainment value for other people to watch that, right?
Yeah.
That's what type of, like Friday the 13th, right? Friday the 13th was a fun game. Yeah, not a great game, but it was a great game because of the fun factor of what it was. So,
what'd you think of Space Marine 2? Because you went from Alan Wake 2 to Toxic Commando. Space Marine 2's in there, and this is the first I heard that's a co-op campaign.
That's what I was talking about. The Warhammer 4K Space Marines. That's what it is.
Well, did you move on from Toxic Commando?
Well, I talked about Warhammer before Toxic Commando.
Did? I am so sorry. Yeah. I was probably reading chat. I missed that. So I want to get your comments on that.
I said that was I was interested in that from day one, but then when they said it was co-op, that was an instant buy for me. This is where I said that me and Sarge played through Halo, we played through Gears, and because this game has the co-op now, we're going to play it together. So it's an instant buy. So
on that game, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I feel like the gameplay is a little too good to be true. Do you feel we're getting genuine gameplay in those trailers? It feels a little bit that whole fully rendered, souped up thing. I don't know. It feels a little too good to be true.
You think that it's going to be like a Watch Dogs or like a Spider-Man situation where they're going to back down the graphics? I mean, it could.
I don't know if it'll be that extreme, but I'm definitely looking at that game thinking that doesn't seem possible on at least on a PC. Sure, a souped up PC. You're going to need a high level PC. There's just a lot going on the screen. I'm just curious what it's actually going to look like on a PS5 or a Series X.
I mean, I'm going to be playing on the X right now, as of right now, unless something we know more meats and potatoes of it before it comes out, and then maybe I'll switch to the PC and then we'll play it on PC because Sarge just got a new PC, so we can play it together on the PC. Don't know if it's crossplay or anything like that. I mean, if the graphics are a little dummied down, I'm okay with that because I'm not interested in the game because of the graphics. I'm interested in the game because it's Warhammer and I'm a Space Marine and I'm mowing down tons of bad guys. So that's a whole other topic about is graphics, because for me, graphics are not the selling point for video games. For me, they're the cherry on top. Gameplay and story. I'm a huge story component person. I think that game is going to have a great story. And then the fun factor is playing with my brother. And then the graphics is just the cherry on top for me. So I don't know if it'll get dummied down. I'll kind of agree with you. I think maybe it will get dummied down and maybe it won't look as visual, but I don't think we're going to look at it and go, oh, I can't play this. Like, I mean, they just came out with bolt action, right? The Warhammer 4K bolt action, and that's like the old school like Doom and whatnot, and people are loving it, and it has nothing to do with the graphics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily agree that game graphics don't matter. Not necessarily that like you need the graphics, but more that they've really promoted it as being a very good-looking game. So I wouldn't necessarily be like, well, the game sucks now, but I would be disappointed if it doesn't look like how they've promoted it, because it does look just so awesome. And I want, as somebody who, you know, bought into the next-gen ecosystem, it's like, man, I really want to see that next-gen performance. I really want to see those games bring the heat, and that could certainly be one that does.
There was an article a couple weeks ago. One of the devs was talking. I forget what game he worked on. He was talking about how AAA games are putting themselves in a corner. They're going to hit a wall because they're so over realistic, right? They look so good graphic wise. Like, where do you go from here? Like, look what Mario was to Mario is, and then look at what Grand Theft Auto was and what Grand Theft Auto is. Like, Mario can still grow because he's still like cartoony. Okay, but Grand Theft Auto went from a top-down pixel game to three-dimensional to photorealism type of stuff, and we don't know what Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to potentially look like. But where do you go? Like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, a lot of the game companies that are making these beautiful-looking games, like you're going to get disappointed because they're not going to look like what, real life. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying you, just in general, like the gamers, like. Because games are getting so good looking and realistic, where do they go? They're all going to hit a plateau where they all just look like life. They look like you're playing actual real life. So that's a danger this developer was saying in the future about the AAA games and the way they keep making them super realistic. And I think that's why we see a lot of different stylizations from like independent developers with a really artsy style and whatnot, where they still look beautifully graphic wise, but they're not photorealism. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I think that's such a good point, that when you push photorealism, you like you're saying, there's a ceiling on that. A game can only look, a tree and sunlight and water can only look so much like a tree and sunlight and water, and we're kind of there. I've seen demos and presentations. I'm like, that looks like a real tree. How do you look more real than a real tree? Like, where do we go from here?
The tree, right?
And I think that's where art style is going to be incredibly important to set your game up with an identity. This is where Lies of P, I think, crushes it. Even the most mundane enemies that you fight right at the beginning, it's awesome. Yeah. They're like tin soldier like toys, and you go bam, bam, bam. The sound design. That's the key. Like, sure, there's a photorealism, there's a very nice look to Lies of P, but art style, I think, is going to become more important in the coming years, because this is something people have said about Unreal 5. Well, all the games are going to look the same. Okay, well, Fortnite looks nothing like Hellblade 2, so you don't have to worry about all the games looking the same, unless they dial in the same trope of, well, we're going to make it look photorealistic. Like, that, I think, is where you're going to run out of capital. You're going to run out of creativity. So to your point, yes. And there's some pushback in chat. People are saying, no, Space Marine doesn't look unrealistic. It might struggle a bit with performance. Sane is giving me a little bit of pushback. I think it's going to either struggle with performance or hitting what we've seen. It's one or the other, brother. Like, you're right. It 100% could just be like hitching and stuttering and not sluggish on the frame rate because they've got 1,000 things on screen swarming you. Right. Yeah. So that's where my concern comes in with Space Marine. It looks very fully rendered, and people are even saying they notice performance issues in the trailer. I didn't catch that because there was so much on the screen. It was hard.
Yeah, saying what I'm also saying is, we're not at the ceiling yet. The developer was saying in the future that AAA games are going to run into that. They're running full speed into that wall because there's an end to that the way they look. So that's what that developer was saying. Going on with Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know if you've ever played any of the Baldur's Gate series. I played 1 a lot when I was younger. Didn't play 2, but Baldur's Gate 3 looks really cool. I'm interested in it. I probably won't get it when it comes out, August 31st, I wrote down here. I probably won't get it when it comes out, but down the road when there's like a lull in games, because right now I'm hyper into Diablo 4. I was interested in that. Obviously, Spider-Man 2, that's a must for anybody that likes Spider-Man or first-party titles on PlayStation.
Well, what'd you think about them holding on to the release date for this? Do you think this was all part of the plan, top of mind marketing? When everybody's talking about all these other games, Spidey gets to walk in the room because he's a bit of a cyclone. He really pulls things into his orbit. He's so popular as a superhero. Do you think this was all part of the plan? People were saying, oh, they did that in response to the backlash from the showcase. This was damage control.
I don't know if it was response to that, but I do believe that Keighley was like, come on, bro, you got to give me something. You got to give us something more with the game or give us a release date. And I just think that Keighley kind of pulled it out. And I don't know. I know people were talking about yesterday, at least in my chat, on the live stream that I was watching the chat on the side. They said the guy looked nervous for telling the date and whatnot, and then they were trying to speculate that there's some problem with Spider-Man, and I don't know where you're grasping for straws for this, right? I'm just like, I think the game will be fine, right? like the first game was amazing, the second game was amazing. I'm sure this Spider-Man 2 is going to be just as good, if not better, than the first two that they came out with.
Listen, if there's something that I've found very frustrating in gaming commentary, it's the never-ending onslaught of false narratives that get shot down, and then they never address the fact that their false narrative got shot down. I had to constantly hear about, well, there's no release date for Forbidden West, probably getting delayed. No, it came out when it was supposed to come out. Oh, yeah, God of War Ragnarok, man, it's getting pushed to next year. It's not going to make it. It's not going to make it. There's no date. Oh, well, no, here's the date. It's coming out. I had people constantly running with false narratives about those games. And the same thing happened with Spider-Man. Oh, it's the same map. No, the map's twice as big. Oh, yeah, with no release date. It's probably not coming out this year. Oh, it's actually coming out in October. Do you have any other dumb false narratives to run? Or maybe just let games come out and market themselves and don't immediately run to negative talking points. I don't understand the point. It's like it gets shot down and then you just move on to some other false narrative. Oh no, there's trouble. There's trouble for Spider-Man. From where? Where are you hearing this?
Yeah, I personally didn't think they needed to tell us a date because I'm in the factor of, or in the wagon of, don't tell us anything until you know 100%, because if anything over these last 3 years has taught us how many games are delayed and whatnot, and they give you a date and they take that date away. They give you another date and they take that date away. So I for one, look, I know that Spider-Man and Insomniac's probably one of the best studios out there right now. Okay, until they prove to you that they're not, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are. Right, all the games that they've created have just been fantastic, from Ratchet and Clank to Spider-Man, from even their old games from was it Sunrise? Didn't they make Sunrise Overdrive? Didn't they make that?
Insomniac made Sunset Overdrive, yes.
Yes, yeah. So, they've never shown that they're gonna waver in what they're doing, and they're working on Wolverine. So if they didn't come out with a date at this show, I would have been okay with it as well, right? It's just they showed us more stuff, and they even gave us a clue, is Brock, Venom? And they're like, no, he's not. This is our own original story. I have my theories on who it is, but yeah, I was fine with what they did with Spider-Man 2, and I didn't need a date, but now that we have a date, October 20th, hopefully everything is on plan for them when they come out on October 20th.
Here's the thing about the Horizon Forbidden West delay. It was never given oh, here you go. It was, oh, these were games intended to come from 2021, and then they got bumped to next year. That was so many games. That was not what I was talking about. I was saying once we had the February date for Horizon Forbidden West, there was literally people up until we had that date, they thought, no, Horizon Forbidden West is going to get delayed again. There was the same thing happened with God of War Ragnarok. Ragnarok will get delayed again. That was the false narratives I was referring to. Both of those games got shoved into another year. I wasn't trying to deny that. We all know that happened. It was, even once we had the Forbidden West date, I had people combing over the gameplay saying, oh, I don't think this game's ready. I think this game's going to get delayed. And then all year long with Ragnarok, it was like, no, yeah, it's getting bumped. It's getting bumped. It's like, I thought Spider-Man showing up and, having a release date was, again, as a PlayStation fan, I'm disappointed. I'm like, y'all are playing it safe. You couldn't save a big announcement for the showcase. You showed concept art and a release date. I was confident the game was coming out. I didn't need the release date. Certainly don't care about concept art. It's Spider-Man, right?
Right.
But it's kind of brilliant. It's like, oh, it's top of mind marketing. Everybody's talking about Spider-Man now, and there's rumors that people think they're going to do the same thing with Final Fantasy 16 on Sunday. They'll drop the demo to make sure they're in the headlines again while Xbox is trying to do their thing.
I mean, that's competition, right? I mean, so
yeah.
One of the games I almost put a tick next to it was I don't know if you ever played Deep Rock Galactic with the dwarves game. Yeah. Okay, they showed Lord of the Rings: Return of Moria, and I was like, this just looks like Deep Rock Galactic, but with the Lord of the Rings theme, and it looks really bad. Like, I don't know what they're doing with the Lord of the Rings brand. The graphically wise, I was just like, this looks terrible. This doesn't look good at all. This looks like a PlayStation 3 port.
Who's in charge of the Lord of the Rings brand? Who's letting this happen? It literally looked like a PlayStation 3 game. You're right. I was like, what? Yeah. What am I looking at? And then Gollum? What? How does that happen?
So bad.
I don't understand, because we got Amazon Games Orange County in charge of the Lord of the Rings MMO, okay? And these guys can make a good-looking game. New World's beautiful, all right? It's got some amazing vistas and biomes and enemy design. So I'm like, okay, that one should be good. But who let this happen? Who? I want a name. Somebody needs to answer for this, because it looks
right now
terrible.
It's David Zaslav, right? Because he's in charge of the whole thing of WB, and they have the rights to Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. So kudos for them for Hogwarts Legacy. But what are they doing with the Lord of the Rings brand right now? The Lord of the Rings brand. I was interested because it was Lord of the Rings, and then I looked at it. I was like, oh God, what is that? It's like I was like 0 for 2 with the Lord of the Ring games coming out.
It looked bad. And as a concept, Gollum as a concept. No, who thought this was a good idea? At least that game has a decent concept.
Yeah, but the same game, just changed Gollum to Bobo, right? Or to Bilbo, right? To Bobo.
Bobo.
Okay. Yeah, Bobo. To Bilbo, right?
Yeah.
Like, just change the same exact story, but with the hobbits as the lead, instead of, no one cares about Gollum. Nobody cares on how he got to where he was and what he did before he was a psycho.
It would kind of like me playing a game as C-3PO. It's like, it would get old.
That sounds exciting. RPG.
It would get old really fast, though. Slowly
you learn
walking everywhere.
All the linguistics that he learns. He's like, oh, you've upgraded to your 327th language.
Yeah, you now know bocce, so you can you can speak to the power converters. Oh my gosh! Go ahead with what you had next.
No, the next one was Banishers.
Yes, I wrote that one down.
Now, I know this is going to sound bad, but it looks like the Scottish Witcher, right? Like, that's the way I look at it. Like, it's just the Scottish Witcher, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It reminds me of The Witcher, but just with a Scottish guy now. I think he's Scottish. I don't want to offend it. Is he Irish or Scottish? It sounded Scottish to me.
I don't know.
Talking. But I'm sure someone will give me crap for it in chat and then later on. But it looked really good. I was interested in this game. I was just like, oh, man, this looks good. This looks like a thing I'll put on down the road, not when it launches.
Yeah, I wrote that one down because the first time we saw it, it was almost cinematic the whole time, and then they showed very quick gameplay, and I thought it looked very cool. The concept is really neat, that you're like working with your dead lover or dead wife, and you're faced with kind of a choice. I guess you could let her go into the afterlife or somehow join each other, and I don't know if they mean like join each other as in like, is he jumping off a cliff, or is there some way to bring her back from the other side by doing all the killing that they're doing? So I'm very interested. I thought the gameplay looked really neat and really creative. So I wrote down that one. I had that one as well. I want to make sure we don't skip one that I wanted to ask you about. Oh, yeah. What do you think of Palworld?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that. I think there's lawsuits brewing at Nintendo. I think they already have it signed up and ready to push out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Pokemon with guns. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? I mean,
yeah.
Can we just call a chicken a chicken? I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like Pokemon with guns. I have no interest in it. I grew up, but when Pokemon came out, I was in college. I was dating. I was doing different things. I didn't play a lot of Pokemon. I didn't know anything about Pokemon, so it has no interest to me. And then this is just more. I know it's not Pokemon, but that's what I'm going to reference it to because that's what it looks like. It looks interesting, but at the same time, I'm not for me.
I said that I wanted to see the content loop I wanted to see gameplay loop. And I feel like we got that. We saw like bosses with health bars, we saw different biomes, different enemies. And I don't know about the lawsuit thing, because I think the challenge would be,
you think they've changed enough to not get sued?
Yeah, if it's
we gave them guns.
Right,
guns are fine. Guns are enough.
Yeah, fair use would dictate, like, if you take a video or a piece of property and it's transformative enough, you can do it. I mean, this is pretty transformative. I think the danger would be if any of the individual creatures look too similar to a Pokemon, because they're not even trying. The name obviously Palworld, like, in the alphabet, they're going to be next to each other, right? Palworld and Pokemon. I don't think that's an accident either. No. I will be curious if Nintendo tries to flex. We know that Nintendo's a litigious company. They like to sue. They like to tear people down legally. They protect their property rather viciously. I think that would have already happened, personally. I think they would have already swung at these guys with a C&D, and maybe they have. And maybe privately they're like, no, we're not going to stop. This is different enough. We can win this in a copyright fair use battle. I don't know if they have the money to go toe-to-toe with Nintendo. Guys in the chat with their comments, those Pokemon look cut out of the Pokemon game, though. They do. If you guys in chat are enjoying the show, make sure you're smashing like and leave comments for us to read. The like button helps this video find more people.
I like it's not Pikachu, it's Peekaboom. Totally different. Yeah.
yeah, it's Peekaboom.
Yeah. Totally different. Yeah. It's not Pokemon, it's Pokeon. Yeah. It's completely different with guns.
Zubair says, if Nintendo sued me, I would prove that Pokemon characters were derivative in the first place, not original art. I think that probably would be the challenge, is that Pokemon themselves are derivative of other things and other games.
Yeah, but if you're a developer, right? Let's talk about this for a second. If you're a developer and you're like, hey, let's make a video game. You're like, what are we going to make it about? And you're like, what about if we took the Pokemon characters and gave them guns? And they're like, that sounds like a great idea. But you know that the Pokemon characters are very iconic, right? And they're popular for a reason. And you're making a game pretty damn close to those characters. Why would you even put yourself in that boat when they could make original characters and original things, which I know they are original characters, but come on. The art style, the way they look, the characters' shapes and stuff, they look really, really, really close to the thing that we're not saying it is.
Yeah. It is an art style similarity. It's going to come down to the specific design choices, and I would hope that they were careful enough to not have, a Snorlax in the game that's just a little less chubby, right? Because that's not going to work. They will get sued. So yeah, I was curious what you thought about that one. That one's been on my radar. It's going early access in January. So, and then the Banishers game says end of this year. I loved that theme, by the way. So many games this year. Yep. That's awesome.
I have a big gap leading up to Wayfinders. So I don't know if you have something in between Banishers and Wayfinders.
I actually said that the Yakuza game, Like a Dragon, that one I thought looked really nice. I don't play Yakuza games, but I think I could be interested in playing with that one. I thought the combat looked real tight, that just the quick, the punches and stuff. It seemed really neat. And yeah, I have a gap there as well, because I did say it was cool that Marvel Snap was there. That's good for Keighley, but I'm not interested in that game. But that's a pretty big and popular game. I mean, if you get anything Marvel showing up at your showcase, that's a win, especially a popular Marvel mobile game.
I don't know. Besides Spider-Man, all Marvel games are dying left and right. I mean, they just shut down, or they're shutting down Marvel Future Revolution, the mobile game that was super popular when it came out, and that's gone. Marvel's Avengers, that went down in the dumps as well, and I love that game. I'm not talking crap about it because I played more hours in that than I did Destiny in the last 2 years. Okay, like when Destiny was popular. So up to Wayfinders. Wayfinders, I have to be careful what I say because I have an NDA. I played Wayfinders. It's fun. That's all I can say.
That gap to Wayfinders is the same for me though, because I did write down Wayfinders early access this summer, they said, and we've got a pretty solid game there. I think I think that game is looking pretty promising. I think that game could. A lot of MMOs are trying. They're trying. Yeah. And they're struggling. And I actually think Wayfinders could pull it off. I do, because Throne and Liberty looks really, really cool, but we're finding out it's like a blend of tab targeting and action, so you get kind of like locked in a position, which is interesting. It's super interesting that they decided to do that, because the action style MMO combat's becoming more popular, and that's something that Wayfinders I think really nails from the footage that I've seen.
Wayfinders, the only thing I have that might have a problem, not me personally, but just in general, because it's a free-to-play game. So there's going to be that wall once you play through a certain period, that there's going to be like microtransactions or something to push you to purchase something. If it's like I don't know, they didn't have it in the beta, so what I'm saying now is I don't know, but they could have certain things that you're buying to level up, or pay to win type, pay to progress, I guess you could say, and that's free to play. And right now I think you can get what is it, the Founders Packs, I think it is. So it's a free-to-play game, but they have Founders Packs that you can get in for the early access or whatnot. The next game I'm interested in, just because I'm a Star Trek fan, Star Wars, Star Trek. I don't know much about it, though. The trailer that they showed, I think it's a real-time strategy game for Star Trek Infinity, right? Or is that what it's called? Infinity? No.
I thought it was Star Trek Infinite.
Infinite, yeah. I'm intrigued by it, but definitely it's on my radar, I should put. And then the last one that I wrote down that I'm interested in, Aveum, but I'm not interested in it because there's something off about it. There's just something.
Hang on, you glitched out there. You said Immortals of Aveum is the last one?
Correct, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there's just something about the game when I watch the gameplay and see it. and I know I'll probably get hate for this, but it kind of reminds me of like an Outriders as far as the story goes, right?
Oh, like sure.
The story seems like it's going to have that like Outriders type of feel, type of thing to it. And then the shooting of the magic, okay? And I know I'm going to be, I should put glasses on and push them up real fast because I'm like going to sound like a nerd why I don't like it. Me and Sarge were talking about this last night, like, magic is supposed to be like casting, right? And I know if you're playing like Diablo, you're shooting ice beams out of your hands and whatnot, but in the first person, I don't know if it's because of the field of view, if it's too close, the arm's always up in the frame, so it's like that's the gun, right? Is your arm, and he like reloads his arm, like for like in the trailer when they showed it, like he like locks in something to like reload his arm, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then the magic that he's casting is like bullets coming out. It's not like beams and like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like when I'm a caster in like Skyrim and I play first person, I have no problem with it. But I look at this and just something doesn't sit right with me with this game. And I hope it's a good game. I hope it's a great game, but there's just something off about it that I don't like.
I don't agree. I understand why it is weird. I actually will concede that it does look a little funny, but the more I watch, there are some abilities that he's casting that are more like spells and less like bullets. There are a couple times where he does like a beam or like a blast wave or like things that kind of travel slowly. So I would say that I understand people's hesitancy to play a game where your hands are up and they're basically kind of like guns, but kind of not.
Yeah.
But the hands-on previews have all been very positive. So that kind of is what makes me feel good. It's like, oh, okay. Because I think you're right. A game like this could fall real flat. It'd be like, what the heck am I doing? I look like Doctor Strange on an acid trip. Like, why are my hands always up? Like, oh, I'm like, am I going to like be tearing things in space? So yeah, I think that one actually I think looks good. I worry about Immortals of Aveum being that game that just keeps showing up and everyone's like, we're sick of you.
Kind of over it. Yeah, kind of over it. Look, I think I applaud the developer for trying something new, right? For trying something different. It doesn't land for me. I'm not saying the game's bad in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't land for me. There's just something off about it. And usually I go with my gut and I'm just like, I'll stay off. If I went with my gut because I'm a streamer, I shouldn't have played Redfall because my gut said something was going to be wrong with it. You know what I mean? Like, there's other games out there I look at and I'm like, I shouldn't play this. And then I do, and I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have played it.
Well, I'm actually curious about that one being at the Xbox Showcase. I'm curious to see if it'll be there because I'm not sure if they're wrapped up in a marketing contract with PlayStation or not. Because I actually should have checked this before we did the show. Because a lot of those trailers were all going to the PlayStation channel. And when that happens, it makes me wonder. It's like, okay, are you wrapped up in some kind of a kind of a contract? Like, are these only going to be showing up on the PlayStation channel, and then therefore can it then show up at the Xbox showcase? And if it does, I think we hear this all the time in these showcases. We hear these people that are like, oh, we already heard about that. You know, I saw a tweet where the guy was like, there was only so many wholly new games. And I'm like, what the heck is a wholly new game? And what he was getting at is, oh, we already knew about all these titles. We already knew about all these games. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But Aveum could certainly be the one where everyone says, enough is enough. That happened with Final Fantasy 16 during the PlayStation showcase. People were like, we've seen so much of this game. We've seen trailer after trailer. It had its own state of play, and here it is again.
Well, which is also a sign of there's something wrong with the game. If they're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, right? This is not a brand that you knew about before. Like, if this was like Aveum 2, right, and they're pushing it like this, you'd be okay. But that's why I feel like there's something off, right? There's something off where they just keep kind of push it in front of you, like, hey, we got to sell really good with this game because this game could be the next big franchise. And I don't know. It just seems like it's just something's off. I don't know if it's maybe it's short. Right? Maybe it's incomplete in the end, or maybe the story sucks. I don't know. I'm speculating a lot of stuff here. But the selling point, first person, I was interested, and then I'm like looking at it going, I think it's the field of view. I think that's what it really is pushing me off. I think it's just too close, up close. I don't know.
Yeah, the FOV does feel a bit zoomed in. I don't necessarily know if them pushing it a bunch is a sign of trouble, because it also could be, we're a brand new IP. We got to kind of earn our keep. You know, we got to get on everybody's minds, because if not, everybody's going to be talking about all the other big games.
But you also got to remember, games from a advertisement standpoint, there's games that like give you advertisements in the long run, and then they slow bake it over the course of a year. We didn't know anything about Aveum until like 5 months ago, and then all of a sudden they showed it, and then all of a sudden, boom! Now it's coming out. It's like coming out real soon, isn't it? Doesn't it come out like in August, July, August?
Immortals of Aveum is, shoot, I didn't write down the release date. I was trying to see if Xbox did a trailer or if Sony did a trailer yesterday. Neither of them did. It is July 20th is the release date for Immortals.
It's right around the corner, and they started doing the marketing. Yeah, EA started doing the marketing like really, really short before the actual launch of the game, right? So that's another concern of me, where they don't know if they trusted the game. And this is coming from a marketing standpoint. This is coming from me, from the industry, working with a lot of people in the business. When it comes to someone that's really confident in their stuff, they'll show it out a year and a half in advance, right? Because they know it's big bucks, right? They know it's going to sell a lot. And then when they're not sure, but they're like, we might have a hit on our hands here. Let's throw some money at it. Let's get some commercials and advertisement towards it in a short window and see what happens. And that's what they're doing with this particular game. Again, this might be absolutely nothing. It might be a fantastic game. It might be a game of the year contender for some people. But something feels off about it.
I like that they got Gina Torres. David Jaffe's actually in chat saying the story does suck, but the people who have played it say it plays fantastic.
Great.
It's one of those things where I've said that before, where I think you can go with the contrived story if the centerpiece gameplay loop works and people kind of look past it. I am curious, though, if this game is just sort of like the one-off and we play it and that's it, will that lack of a good story make it a less of a compelling sale? Like, if this was an ongoing game, then the story can be a little immaterial and like, the story was kind of cliche. You've got the tough person who doubts the rookie, and the rookie has to prove himself, and there's the older, wiser person that believes in you. It's like, okay, come on. Like, these tropes have been done so many times. Like you said, it had that Outriders feel, but if it's just a one-off, I do wonder if the story will hurt it in the review scores and in the reception. I'm curious to see if there's any DLC plans. I kind of looked at it and thought, that'd be a fun game to play with other people, because a lot of people said it had like a little bit of a Destiny vibe. I'll be curious to see where it lands in the review scores if it does feel like the story is on the weaker end.
Real quick.
Discord is being terrible right now.
That's the worst example you could have given. Spider-Man's gameplay till showcase.
You're gonna have to say that again. Discord just totally stole your soul.
Okay. I said Wrestling Mark. That is the worst example you could have given as to Aveum is Spider-Man, the Spider-Man gameplay. If you listen to the words that came out of my mouth, this is a brand new IP, right? This is not a sequel to the IP. Spider-Man, which is the most famous character on planet Earth from Marvel, okay, which already had one full game out, and then Miles Morales' game came out. You're comparing Spider-Man 2 for not showing gameplay? We already know what Spider-Man is. We already know what it is. This is a brand new IP that they started marketing 4 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that might be why they're kind of overwhelming us with footage. So I said one of the low points for me, because I thought Keighley nailed it. I thought amazing show. I gave it a strong 9 out of 10. But there was that sort of slump at the end. And the slump to me is because so many of us don't care about Fortnite. We don't care about Call of Duty. We don't care about... And Immortals of Aveum, we've seen it so much. And I think that's a personal thing. I don't think that's an indictment of the show. I thought the Twisted Metal show. Thank you so much, NBC, for being a part of the showcase and then blocking all of the coverage that included your trailer. That's just such a smart marketing plan. Stupid. But they end with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and that is landing very mixed. What did you think about that as your mic drop surprise ending?
I honestly didn't care about it because I played it in 1997, right? I didn't care. I know it's a remake. I've already been there, played that. So I thought this game, even though there's huge Final Fantasy fans out there, I thought this is the game you're ending the show with. I was like, that's a surprise. I thought it landed like a wet towel on the ground, just like for me.
Really?
Now, I know I'm not like I said, I played it in 1997. I love the game.
So you're saying for you personally, you thought it landed? Okay.
I thought it landed like a wet towel. Yeah, I was just like, this is the last thing you're showing is the Final Fantasy Rebirth.
I had mixed feelings because I was excited for Keighley. I thought, dude, what a big thing to be able to save till the end. Nice surprise. Yep. They definitely were hinting heavily on their Twitter. They had 7 tweets leading up each day to this event, right? And so we were pretty confident it was going to be there. So I was excited for Geoff and his event, but I'm not really a Final Fantasy guy either. And then I had to consider, and I kind of empathized and sympathized with all the Xbox fans that were like, we can't even play that game, just sort of more salt in the wound with the Final Fantasy brand. So I gave it a high mark. I said, that's a great way to end the showcase, but the reason I think the showcase is getting such mixed results, Keighley's poll was like, 54% gave it a B or an A, and then 46% gave it a C or a D. I think there's that split. I think it's a brand split. I think the Xbox fans thought that ender was a stinker, and there was already that kind of slump at the end. And I think that's leading to some of those fans saying this just wasn't a good showcase for us and Xbox wasn't there. They only showed the Porsche Xbox and controller. They didn't show any of their games, which we're going to talk about that in a second. What do you think about that, though, the way that there's kind of that split divide on people thinking the show was bad and people thinking the show was good?
I don't know if it's Xbox fans. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't play Final Fantasy. There's more people that don't play Final Fantasy than there are that do play Final Fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, Final Fantasy is a huge brand. It's raved across the world, but over here in the West, not as popular as it is over in the East. You know what I mean? Like we're a small fraction of the Final Fantasy fans over here compared to the world. I don't know. I think it's hard to say if it's just Xbox fans because they can't play the game. I think if Xbox fans, and this is my logic, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, then you're not really an Xbox fan. You're a fan of the game, meaning you would purchase the game or the system that it was on to play that game if you are a true Final Fantasy fan, right? So if they were upset because it's a Final Fantasy game that they can't play on their Xbox, then they're not really a Final Fantasy fan. They would go buy the box they wanted their favorite brand on. You know what I'm saying? Like we all know Final Fantasy's on PlayStation for decades. Mm-hmm. So why would the people that can't play the game be upset that they can't play a game that they haven't played in decades?
Well, I mean, I can put out my theory on that. I think people go to these showcases with a scorecard, and they want to track points for their side. And I think that Xbox didn't score any points, and that's fine. I'm not saying that's a problem. I'm not. That's totally fine. Because in my book, that makes me look at the Xbox showcase and say, okay, you guys are keeping your cards close to your chest.
Right.
Great. I hope you got a really good hand of cards. I hope you got a full house that you get to lay on the table. But I think that's why. I think they want to be able to run to Twitter and keep those scorecards going. Yeah, man, Xbox had a great show. Xbox this, Xbox that. The truth be told, if you look at the sales breakdowns of games like Final Fantasy and even the recent sales breakdowns of Street Fighter, that ecosystem, that consumer base, they don't buy these games. They would not do well on that ecosystem. Right. Because of the cultural background, because of the historical background, because of the larger consumer base that prefers these games, it wouldn't do as well on Xbox. And if you're a huge Final Fantasy fan, I'm kind of with you, Mike. You're a huge Final Fantasy fan, and you're beholden to one box, to one piece of plastic. That's a you problem. That would be like me being a huge Gears of War fan and being like, well, I'm just gonna only own a PlayStation. Like, what are you doing? You know,
I have a PlayStation back here, and the only reason I got that PlayStation was because of Spider-Man. That's the only reason. That's
what got me into the PlayStation ecosystem. I was always big Xbox. I got the PlayStation 4 Pro because I wanted to play Spidey, and I got the collector's edition with the Spidey logo on it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't get the logo, but I got the bundle when it came with Spider-Man, right? Like, I love Spider-Man, and of course I like other games, but I bought that PlayStation because of Spider-Man. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan, then why wouldn't you go buy the system that you have your favorite game? Like, see, this is why I think it's asinine that people are like,
We're getting some pushback from Valiant. He says, I reject that. I grew up playing Final Fantasy, but I'm not going to drop $400 just for one game. I also accept that, and we'll just wait for it to come to PC. I do think there are people stuck in that quandary of like, maybe they don't see a real reason to buy PS5, and one game's not motivation enough.
Valen, but I have a question for you. Are you going to just buy that game and never buy any other game for that PlayStation ever? You see what I'm saying? Like, if you have a PC and you want to wait and because you don't want to spend $400 on that game, cool. Then you're not the actual person we're talking about here. We're talking about people that are upset.
Yeah.
Are you upset that you can't play the game? You just said you're going to wait, meaning you're okay with waiting it to come on PC, meaning you're not one of the people that we're talking about in this conversation. The people that we're talking about in this conversation are angry that they can't play Final Fantasy, but they already knew that Final Fantasy was an exclusive on PlayStation for a decade. So let's just say the kid's 10 years old and he's upset. Oh, I can't play Final Fantasy. Well, when you were born, it still wasn't on the damn system that you're on right now. So what are you upset about? Right?
Yeah. Well, and I do think, what Valiant's saying is there's probably PC gamers that are saying, come on, man. I've been a fan of Final Fantasy all this time. What's going on? Final Fantasy 16's going PS5. I'm going to have to wait. Yoshi P says I'm not even going to see it in 6 months. Like, I could see there being Final Fantasy fans that are a little miffed at the relationship that's formed with PlayStation. I could see people being irritated about that. But I tend to agree that the console guys, the Xbox guys that try to bring up Final Fantasy always make me scratch my head a little bit. I'm like, I don't understand. It doesn't have a history over there. It hasn't really been over there. It's clearly a more Japanese-based game, so that, as far as culturally speaking, it's probably very successful on PlayStation for that reason. And there's a established history there. But I do think as a show ender, that's going to be that split, and that's going to be that divide. A good portion of the audience says, no, I can't even play that game. I can't even be excited about that game because it's not on my system. He says, I don't buy full-price games, which is why I don't console game, which is why I will wait or try and set up a friend's PS Remote Play and play it on PC. Yeah, I said
again,
this,
but you're not the person that we were talking about then. You're okay waiting.
Yeah, I said that yesterday. I said there's been a lot of people saying recently that the PlayStation games coming to PC means there's no reason for me to buy a PS5 because I'll get better performance on the game later for less money, on my PC. And my pushback was, if you look at the hardware breakdown in Steam, that's not true. The average PC out there in the market will not play a PS5 ported game better than the PS5. They're weaker systems. Now, there's a very small percentage of the PC market that will get a port like Spider-Man Remastered or when Ratchet and Clank comes. And yes, there's a very small percentage of the market that will be able to play those games at higher quality. But to say, oh, it's not worth it to get a PS5, it's $400. If you're on a mid-level system like I am right now, mid-level PC, if I wanted to make a PC that's stronger than my PS5 that could run a game like Spider-Man Remastered at a much higher level of fidelity, it would cost me a whole lot more than $400. So I do think their loyalty is odd sometimes. It's like, if you're sitting on a mid-level PC right now, you will not play PlayStation 5's games better than the PlayStation 5 plays them. You simply won't. Look at the spec requirements of Spider-Man Remastered. You need a monster system, which means if you're going to upgrade your computer, great.
You're spending more than you would.
You're going to spend more than $400, and then you got to wait. So there's a very small percentage of people that can peacock and flex about their PC being stronger than a PS5 for games like Spider-Man or Ratchet. I think it again just comes down to that weird brand loyalty thing. It's like I have everything in the home because I want to play anything that comes out, whether it's Zelda, Starfield, or God of War.
We love our food analogies on here, right? So that's like going to Burger King and ordering a Big Mac because they don't have Big Macs. They have Whoppers. But you're like, I want a Big Mac. Make me a Big Mac. They're like, well, we don't have Big Macs here. You have to go over to the other restaurant across the street and order a Big Mac. No, I refuse. I just want to bitch about it the entire time. Even though I know you guys don't make Big Macs, I want a Big Mac.
Don't make fast food analogies, Mike. You're gonna make everybody upset. They're gonna misunderstand what you're saying.
I understand. Big Mac, PlayStation, Whopper, Xbox. If you're a Burger King guy and you want a Big Mac, you got to walk across the street and you got to purchase the Big Mac.
Thank you, RP Gaming, for upgrading to VIP. Guys, don't forget, you did hit your VIP goal. I'm hungry, too. You did hit your VIP goal, so I will be playing Returnal today with my producer. You have time to upgrade before we do that. I do get what you're saying with the analogy, and I wonder, because we've got this showcase, and now everybody's looking at the Xbox showcase. Xbox showcase is the next big thing on the docket, because we got Future Game Show. Today we got Tribeca. I won't be covering Tribeca. But we'll be covering Future Game Show tomorrow. I'm gonna do a show in the morning as well. I'm gonna do a UB Forward Expectations, and then on Sunday, and I'm gonna be covering the Xbox Showcase, the Starfield Direct, and the PC Game Showcase. So of all the things left, and then there's UB Forward, and then Capcom's doing something. Of all the things left, Xbox Showcase is the biggest thing left. Do you think that this showcase from Keighley combined with PlayStation's, did they make it harder on Xbox? Because, listen, this is not shade. You got to have a lot of third party to pad out these showcases. It's unavoidable. You cannot do 90 minutes of first party AAA bangers. It just is impossible. I think there's going to be really strong first party presence at Xbox's showcase. I'm actually very confident about that. I think their showcase will be better than PlayStation's. But they have to have third party there. And did this showcase and Sony make it tough on them? Is it going to be a lot of repeat?
Do they have to have third party though? Because the leading up to this is that Xbox had no first party titles, right? And they've botched the first party titles, and Redfall coming out was another botched title for first party. Phil said that we have to do better with transparency and whatnot. Like, we already know that if a third party game's coming out, that if you have Xbox right now, that the 12 games they took once PlayStation did their thing and they put that post on Twitter for 12 games, right? We already know those games are on Xbox. If they show one of those games at Xbox, that's a loss because I don't need to see that again, right? I personally want to see them show stuff that they haven't shown yet. So I personally would rather them come out with just first party titles and do a quick montage of like third-party games. You can also play like this, right? Just show that as one big compilation of other third-party games coming out, but focus on your first-party games. If that's coming out this year, if that's coming out in the next 6 months, if that's coming out in the next 12 months, if that's coming out in 2 years, just show us what you have for Microsoft and for Xbox, and so people that in the future, like, well, I know, I think Stealth is in here, right? Stealth S Gaming, right? He's one of your viewers as well as mine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He said that I'm waiting for the Xbox showcase. And if they don't show me anything, I'm selling my Xbox, right? He's like, I'm getting rid of my Xbox because I know that there's nothing for me on this system moving forward. And I understand that. I completely understand someone coming from that from that standpoint. I would personally want them to show all first party. I don't care about the third party games. Again, Hogwarts Legacy, Jedi Survivor, and Diablo. I didn't need advertisements to tell me they were on Xbox. I just knew they were on Xbox. I already have the system. I don't have a PlayStation 5. I was like, I'm going to buy those games, third party games on that on my Xbox. So I would rather them show first party. Come out strong, first party. I don't care if it's independent. I don't care if it's Game Pass. I don't care if it's anything. Just show me all first party stuff and then do a compilation of third party montage.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree at one level because, and the Xbox guys, they'll never clip this and put this in their videos, but I actually don't agree that if they do a bunch of repeat of the third party, that's a loss. Now, that's a loss on Twitterverse. That's a loss on brand scorekeeping.
Yeah, for the small percentage of us. Yes, I understand.
But that's not a loss for the general public. I think the average person tuning in will say, that game looks sick. I have an Xbox, right? I'm speaking as them, right? I'm speaking as somebody who just has the Xbox. They're like, I've got an Xbox and that game looks sick. They have no idea the battles and the fights that are fought in the YouTube comments and on Reddit, on Twitter. So I actually don't think it's going to be a major L if a bunch of the third party is there and it's a bunch of repeat. Now, I expect consistency from people who took PlayStation to task for that. Hey, well, you can't have all this third party. You can't have all these indies. Okay, well, fair is fair. Here is where I think they will have a fair comeback. If they're defending the Xbox showcase and they're saying it was better than PlayStation's, I think their fair comeback is, and I anticipate this being the case, they're going to say there was a much stronger first-party presence. There was way more first-party gameplay. There was way more first-party. We have a lot more confidence in what's coming. And I'll be like, you're right. I have no idea what PlayStation's doing beyond Spider-Man. I would like to know. I don't need to know, but I would really like to know. And that's where I think Xbox can win some points with that public fight that happens. Again, I don't think John Q. Public gives a crap about any of this. So that's why I don't think it's a major loss. But if they can nail that first-party presence, I think that'll be a win. They'll say, look, you guys can stay on Game Pass. You can stay in our ecosystem. Hey, homie, you don't got to sell your Xbox. Keep it. There's good things coming. Because my thought is they're going to stress Starfield in the next quarter. You're going to have Forza Motorsport in the fourth quarter. They might even surprise drop something this summer since they missed... They were supposed to kind of have that summer presence. Like I think there was supposed to be something in June, which I think they were probably wise not to do that. And then I think Avowed and Hellblade 2 are next year. That's 2 of the 4 games that we know. Phil Spencer says we're finally to a point where we can deliver a game every quarter, a big game every quarter at quality.
Right.
And that most important part's at the end, at quality. If I get to the end of 2023 or the end of 2024 and these games are not at quality, I don't care that you checked your little fancy box of like, we got a game out that quarter. No. If it looks and runs like Redfall, that's not a check mark. That's an X. Yep. That's a fail. So I think it's going to be a really strong showcase. But as Phil Spencer said, the proof is in the pudding. Until you got a controller in your hands and you're playing these games, nothing he says matters and nothing they say matters on Sunday until we're playing the games. But I think it's going to be strong. Them not showing anything at Keighley's event, that has me very interested in Sunday. It's like, you guys didn't do a teaser. You didn't do a commercial. You didn't do a trailer. Well, I take that back. They did a Game Pass commercial, but that didn't really drive attention to Sunday. So I think Sunday is going to be a big day for Xbox. I do.
Here's Captain Ply. Is that Captain Ply? I'm not saying that 2 hours. If I'm not mistaken, Aaron Greenberg said there's an hour showcase for Xbox and an hour showcase for Starfield, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what he...
I thought it was 90 minutes for the Xbox showcase, and then they're going to kick it to Starfield for 30. That's my understanding. We could try and get some clarity on that very quickly.
Let me look it up real quick. So I remember Aaron Greenberg saying something about... Maybe it is. It's 2 hours total. You're correct. It's 2 hours total, hour and a half to Xbox, half hour for so to stretch out an hour and a half in a production world is pretty simplistic, right? Let's just say here, I'll give you, let's say they come out with State of Decay 3 that we haven't heard anything about. I'm not saying this is what they're doing, but they come out with State of Decay 3. All of a sudden they show you a trailer, then they show you the guy come on stage and they talk about it for a second. Then they show you some gameplay, maybe of the technology they're doing. 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes goes by, easy, right? Then all of a sudden you bring out the Forza Motorsports game. They show you some cars. They talk about how the technology is. They show you some intro, whatever. That's another 10 minutes that goes by. That's 2 games, 20 minutes, okay? It's not about bang, 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 bang. It's a Xbox showcase, right? This is not Game Fest here, where they're showing you trailer after trailer after trailer after trailer. This is their showcase to show their first party stuff, right? So third party games, they could do a montage, like I said, where they just show you a clip, 2 minutes, 5 minutes of clips of games that are all coming out on Xbox. You can play them on the same system that you can play on the PlayStation or the PC. That's third party. As far as first party, though, they have, 28 studios? Is it 28 or 24? I forget how many studios they have. Okay.
They have more. They have more studios than Sony. That's the important thing.
Right. So let's just say there's 28 studios that they potentially could show something, and only let's say half of those are actually going to show something, and each of those take 5 minutes. That's an hour, right there. Okay, and that's at 5 minutes apiece. You know, they're going to spend some more time on certain games than others. So I think they can stretch out to an hour and a half of the games that they have and whatever else they have planned for us for that hour, for that 90-minute spot.
Well, I agree with Eugene. Eugene is saying they don't have 90 minutes of first-party stuff, Mike. There's no way. And here's why I think Eugene is correct. I don't disagree with you that you can eat up a lot of time with interviews. I was super impressed with Keighley's pacing. Very impressed.
Yeah, the show was great.
You've been on that side of the production. I've been on that side of the camera. I was like, wow, not a single hiccup. Smooth. It hummed. Just jam-packed showcase with on-stage interviews that can just go sideways on you. And his pacing was incredible. I was very impressed. They did a lot of interviews. There are articles now circulating about the fact that there were no women on stage. And I was like, there was only a handful of interviews to begin with. What's Keighley supposed to do when they show up? Say, hey, wait a minute, sorry, we got a quote of me here. He only had a handful of people on stage anyway, and it's a single host event. So I thought that was just such a needless narrative to start driving. Good night.
It's a game show, and they're going to make it about diversity. But
like the people that they send to talk about the games, like I've done the pre-interviews. I literally remember doing pre-interviews for Main Stage E3, and they would come, and they would have two people. They'd have the one person to just sort of talk to me and prep, and then they'd have the person for the stage. Because not everybody wants to be on that stage. Not everybody wants to be on the other end of the microphone. So
some people shouldn't be in front of the camera.
Yeah, you put the person out there that's the most comfortable, and that's just that. What are we supposed to do? Be like, well, I get Carla. She's like, I don't want to go out there. Like, come on. You can't
force Carla. Checklist. We have to get you out there. It's on the checklist so we don't get an article written about us. Yeah.
Just stupid. But 5 minutes per game would be a lot as well. Yeah, that was where I was going. These interviews are usually really fast, like really quick. And Keighley probably spent, I think, 5 to 7 minutes per interview when I was kind of watching the time. So I would imagine that's not going to eat up as much time. And the other thing I was going to say is this. I don't think Xbox wants to primarily just stress first party because Game Pass needs third party. For the last, since the Series X and the S have landed, it's been almost 3 years, 2.5 years. The greatest proportion of their Game Pass funnel has been third party. It was amusing to me when people were like shocked to find out that PlayStation makes a bunch of money on a third party game with Call of Duty, and they were shocked that PlayStation focused so much on third party in their showcase. Like, have you looked at Game Pass for the last 36 months? Have you? Because that's what they put there.
But all you have to do for a showcase like that is literally go either Phil Spencer or someone says, everything you're about to see is everything's on Game Pass day one. And then all of a sudden they show boom, 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 boom. They could show 20 freaking games. It could be independent games. It could be third-party AA games. They could do all that. And then they just show it. Or they show you a whole bunch of stuff. At the very end of that, he comes back on stage. Everything you just saw right there is on Game Pass day one. They don't have to spend an enormous amount of time to showcase Game Pass because Game Pass speaks for itself because everything you just watched is on Game Pass day one. No questions asked, right? So sign up right now. We got Game Pass, and all these games are going to be on there. On top of that, we have our first-party titles, right? That's all they have to do. They don't have to spend an enormous amount of time on the third-party games at an Xbox showcase, is what I'm saying. You can still show third-party games. I didn't say they're not showing any third-party games. I'm saying the way they're showing it, they don't need to break it down like, 2-minute trailer here, next one's 2-minute trailer, and there's like a 20-minute span of just third-party games that we've already seen. You're like, okay, we've already seen Aveum again. Okay, we're seeing it again. Okay, cool, right? the marketing of it is Xbox Showcase. Show us what's on Xbox, and that is first-party titles. Show us what we want to know, and all these games over here are third-party games, and they're all on Game Pass, right? Or they're coming to the system.
Jake says they needed third-party. They eventually won't. I think that's an impossibility. They add anywhere from 5 to 8 games to Game Pass every month. I mean,
they need third-party games. Sure.
That rhythm and cadence cannot be maintained by first party. Even if they get Activision Blizzard, there's no way. They would still need third party. The industry runs on third party. I mean, they'd basically be buying a slice of third party pie when they buy Activision Blizzard. But to act like, oh no, they'll get to the point where they don't need third party. Are you kidding me? Sony's been crushing them. Sony's in the lead handedly, and Sony heavily leans on third party. The only company out there that doesn't lean heavily on third party is Nintendo.
Yeah, they don't have to.
Because they can drop a buggy Pokemon game and it'll break records. Nobody cares.
Look, what I want and what they're going to do are two different things, right? The question was, what do I want to see and what they should do? And that's what I think they should do. What they're going to do is they're going to show third-party games that we already saw, which is going to be like, okay, great, we've already seen this. Show us which, right? You're going to watch it. The crowd that's in this chat right now is going to be like, great, already seen it. Show me what you got, Xbox. Show me your first-party games, Xbox. Not the third-party games that you already know are going to come on the system, regardless if they show you it or not.
I'll just be excited to see all the narrative shift on, well, third party can be there. That's okay. You know, it's important for the marketing and the brand.
Right.
Like, it'll be okay when they do it, right? Like, and I try to tell people that about both Sony's and Keighley's and Xbox's event. You cannot go to these events and expect everything to hit you. I go expecting about 1/4 to 1/3 of the games to interest me. Maybe half if it's a really good showcase. But I do think sometimes people go in, they're like, no, it's going to be 90 minutes, and I am going to be having an adrenaline rush the entire time, and every game is going to be exciting. It's like, no, you're probably going to like a smattering of the games, and you're going to see games you have no interest in. You're going to see games that you will never buy. And I think that is a sign of health in the industry. You should be excited that, yeah, man, about half those games I have no interest in. Do you want to know why? Because that means a bunch of other people in the industry have something to look forward to.
Yeah. I'm the only thing I'm looking forward to, I don't have any expectations for Xbox. None. My expectation is I want to see Fable. Show me what Playground Games has been working on, what the kind of graphics they have for Forza, what they implemented with that game engine onto Fable. That's all I want to see. And it's not even about I'll take a screenshot. I don't even care. I just want to see what it looks like in that graphic engine and what Playground is doing with that, because I'm interested in what they've done with that brand, because I'm nervous. I'm nervous about what Playground, they make awesome car games, and now this is their first time making this type of game, and that's what I'm most interested in. They can show me anything else, and I'll be like, all right, cool.
Well, and there's concern and worry about Fable. So I thought, man, this would be a great time to put some of those concerns to bed. But Aaron Greenberg said there's going to be in-game footage, in-engine footage, or a combination of in-game footage and cinematics. And I tried to tell people, I was like, guys, don't get too excited just yet, because in-engine footage is essentially a cinematic.
It's CGI. That's what it is. It's computer-generated stuff, no matter what they show you. In-game, in-engine, whatever. It's still the same. They say, when they say cinematic trailers, that it's just sort of like the Diablo trailers or something like that. You know what I mean? Or the World of Warcraft. Like Blizzard makes fantastic trailers, right? That are so epic looking. That's what they're talking about. We have a mixture of that. It's not going to be all that, is what they said.
Well, I will concede the point that in-engine footage is preferable over just a cinematic, because at least I can see a semblance of what the game world will look like. But historically speaking, in-engine trailers tick everybody off because we want gameplay and your camera.
I see a HUD.
Yeah, your camera swooping through your biome and your vistas, all fully rendered and beautiful in-engine. It doesn't mean anything to me at this point. We've been tricked so many times by in-engine footage not being authentic or not being representative of the final product. And I wanted to warn people about it. I was like, listen, Aaron Greenberg was like, there's not going to be any purely CG trailers from your first-party studios, but you're going to get in-game, in-engine, or a combination of in-game and cinematic. And
He should have just shut his mouth and not said anything, to be honest with you. I think he made it worse by saying what he said.
If there's one thing I've learned about the gaming Twitterverse and the gaming public, they don't understand what a lot of these terms mean. Because I saw people retweeting that and saying, oh yeah, nothing but gameplay. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Nope. That's not what he said.
Slow down there, Wilbur. That ain't what he said. You're going to be real angry at him if an in-engine trailer walks out and you're going to say, wait a minute, where was the gameplay? I was promised gameplay. You got to know what these terms mean if you're going to come to those kind of conclusions.
Wait till the day comes where they just show gameplay and then everyone just bitches about the person that was playing the game when the gameplay was terrible, right?
Yeah. Redfall was certainly
better.
Yeah, it was certainly that guy at IGN's fault. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something right now. That guy at IGN, whoever recorded that footage, he's a hero.
He did the best he did. Yeah, he did the best he could.
He tried. He tried to warn us. You know that scene in that movie where the guy in the stand tells everybody that Samuel L. Jackson is a hero? This man's a hero. You turn him loose. It's like that man or woman, whoever it was at IGN, they are a hero in the Hall of Fame of Gamers. They tried to let us know this game is a garbage can.
Yeah, he did the best he could. He should get a medal.
Everybody dogged him. And they were all wrong. Yep. With the Starfield Direct coming after the Xbox Showcase, what are you looking for from the Starfield Direct specifically?
I'm looking for 1,000 planets. I want him to just go to. I want him to go to one of those planets. I want him to go to one of the planets that's not on the main campaign. Just show me what's on one of those 995 planets that's out there outside of the campaign. No, I honestly don't care. I'm at this point, Starfield is like I'm so sick of Starfield before it even came out because we've seen so much and talked about Starfield for so much. I'm just like, just shut up. Just show me the goddamn game. Just show me the goddamn game. Just show me the game. At this point, I don't even care. Just wait. I'll just wait for it to come on Game Pass. Maybe I won't cover that just to be surprised when the game comes out in September.
I love your candor and your grumpiness about it, because it is one of those things where it's like, you know, what's made Starfield a real thorn in the side is they've not shown much, but everybody has so much to say. You know, all these guys, huge Starfield reveal. And it'll be like a blog that said, yeah, there's going to be an NPC with a mustache. And they're like, yeah, man, mustaches coming to Starfield. I'm like, what is going on with Stop it. That is not an announcement. That's not big news. By the way, that's totally made up. There's no mustache headline. But I started to feel that way. I was like, golly goodness. Everyone is so desperate for information and headlines on this thing. They basically just trick people and they run with just these false headlines, these false leads. And I actually think Starfield's going to be a mic drop. I do. I think they're going to wow us. I think it's going to be a big game. I think that if the rumors are true,
there's 1,000 planets. It's going to be a big game.
I think it's going to be a Skyrim moment for them. I think they pulled it off. That's my gut. My gut instinct is they pulled it off. id Software came in, helped them with the shooting. I think the RPG stuff looks very promising. I think they did. I think they pulled it off. Now, I'm not trying to hype it up. I'm saying the difference between this thing bumbles out of the gate and they pulled it off. Now, obviously, the concern would be that leaker that said the stuff that they said, that a lot of that stuff came true. Yeah. Hopefully they were wrong. Yeah, hopefully they were wrong.
Yeah. Well, when you say they're gonna make it, do you mean they're gonna make it like they did Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Skyrim? So on day one, it's as buggy as those games were, and that's they've made it. Or are you saying that it's gonna be great? Like it's not gonna be a Fallout 3, a Fallout 4, a Fallout New Vegas, a Fallout or Skyrim, because they were all buggy, and I love all those games, and some of those games were Game of the Year. So I think Bethesda gets a unfair shake, because again, this industry is, what have you done for me lately? And they had multiple games that were games of the year. They're they were a fantastic company, right, making great games, and they had that Fallout 76 come out, and everyone's like, these guys don't know how to do anything. This is the worst gaming company in the world. I think the game will be fine. I do. I think it'll just be fine. I think the people that liked Fallout and liked Skyrim, they're going to love Starfield. This is sci-fi Starfield, right? Or sci-fi Skyrim as far as... and I think the game's going to come out, and I think it's going to have its issues. I think it's going to have the Bethesda charm, as they say, with the Bugthesda. And I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. And I think there's going to also be the other side of the defenders of there's 995 planets out there that are kind of bare and desolate, like a No Man's Sky. And people will be like, well, the story was great, right? The story was fantastic. I don't care about the other 995 planets. But the thing is, Todd Howard is the one that's marketed there's 1,000 planets in this game, right? So hopefully the after the story part and the exploring the world part is not terrible. And it's actually more than what No Man's Sky was. Because No Man's Sky in the very beginning, when you went to a planet, and it was desert planet here, forest planet here, you would go around that whole planet and you would find nothing, right? So are they doing the exact same type of thing, or are they going to put procedurally generated stuff on there? I want to know more about the stuff after the campaign, because obviously I think the campaign and the story is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be fun to do, but what's after the actual story and going out into exploring the universe?
We had a good question in chat from Frank Kent. He says, what if it's typical Buggy Bugthesda? Will players tolerate that today after Cyberpunk? I actually don't agree with that. I don't think they will. I think when I say they nailed it, I think this game will be getting solid scores across the board. I think the bugs will be there. I think that's at one level it's unavoidable of a game of this scope. It's too big, okay? So if people are going to run and cherry pick little minor bugs, that's going to be exhausting. I don't think this game is going to be in the state of like a Fallout 4 or certainly not a Fallout 76. But I think the bugs they're par for the course. It's almost endemic to games of this size.
Right.
And I'm not going to hold that against them. I didn't hold it against Fallout 4. I enjoyed Fallout 4. I had no major issues. My memory of Skyrim and Fallout 4, so many people overstate how bad those games were. I was like, I don't remember anything that you're talking about. I had a perfectly fine time with those games. And I think when I say Starfield nailed it, I don't think it's going to be like a bug-riddled mess that lands it with like 6s and 7s out of 10s. Right. I think it'll have solid scores across the board.
I mean, look, some of the most popular games have been the most buggy games when they come out. The Witcher 3 was called The Glitcher. Okay, there was terrible glitches and stuff with the game when it came out, but it's a phenomenal game, right? Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't a complete game for most people on the systems when they came out. PC, everyone had a fantastic time for the most part, but that game is widely applauded because it's a great game, right? So there's games out there that have Skyrim. Skyrim was buggy, but my dragon would go backwards and attack me. You know what I mean? Like there's little things that happen. But the overall, there's more positive than negative in the media and the Twitterverse and the YouTube channels. We talk about it and we over exaggerate how bad certain things are. But at the same time, when you're correct, Lono, that when you make a game this size, right, and it's not an excuse for them, right? They're not making a game that's like 4 hours to beat, right? By the time you find maybe something, again, I played Fallout 76. I tell the story all the time. I played Fallout 76 for 82 hours before I had a major issue in that game, where meanwhile, a Skill Up is saying, this is the worst game I've ever played in my entire life, and it made reviews of it. I didn't have any issues with that game until hour 82, and then the game completely melted on the screen, live on chat, or live on stream, where I couldn't get out of my armor, I couldn't interact with anything, the game crashed, it was invisible, it was falling through the map, like everything happened all at like one time. So I think Starfield will be fine. I think Starfield will come out and it will get great reviews, but people won't give it the props that it deserves or doesn't, right? Because they just want to crap on it because of what happened to Fallout 76 and not stand on what the game itself is.
Yeah, I mean, somebody in chat saying, James Rucker, it should be 10 across the board, not even a 9. I think that is an just unreasonable expectation.
Yes.
I don't think that's... Xbox era kind of blew me away with the commentary a couple of weeks ago about like, well, this game is going to get, 7s and 8s, and that's bad. Like, if people give it 7 and 8s, they're going to be hating on the game. And I was like, wait, so you're presuming it's already a 9 or a 10? Now, again, this is the same outlet that gave Redfall an 8.5, which is laughable. I don't think you can even subjectively give that game an 8.5. It was barely cobbled together, barely ran. Like, it was incomplete. I don't think you can give passable scores to games that are so woefully incomplete. That's you're misleading the public at that point. You're not just giving out your subjective opinion. I think you're falsely representing the product. And then to say, oh, well, yeah, this game is going to get 7 and 8s from outlets, and they're going to be hating on it automatically. And I'm like, if I see a bunch of 7s and 8s, and then I know there will be outlets that just automatically give it 9s and 10s, but if I see a bunch of 7 and 8s along with it, I'll say, oh, I think we got a good game on our hands. Like, I'm not going to be alarmed by that. I'm alarmed when outlets are giving games 4s and 5s and 6s, and then you see those guaranteed 9s and 10s from the outlets that just, always give a passing score to their favorite brand. But if I don't see those 4, 5s, and 6s, I'll say, oh ho, I think we've got a good game on our hands if the more middle of the road, more trustworthy outlets are giving it 7 and 8s. Those are solid scores for a game of this size.
Well, here's the thing that we could do as gamers, right? You don't want broken, buggy games, then just don't buy it day one, right? There's plenty of people to watch, plenty of reviews to go around and see. You don't have to fund them before they give you something. Now, obviously, if you're a fan, you want to pre-order because you want the statue, the space helmet, whatever they give you, then by all means, go ahead. But for everybody else that's out there, like, well, I got ripped off. Like, no one told you had to buy it day one. Like, and if you're on Xbox, which you are, if you want to play Starfield or PC, right? There's Game Pass, which is not $70 out of your pocket, right? You can wait and play it when it comes on Game Pass day one, which is almost like a demo at that point, or a really cheap demo because you're paying $10 for the other 400 games that are all on the platform. But yeah, so there shouldn't be this like outcry of this is the worst game I've ever played and whatnot. Just don't buy it, or don't play it after the reviews come out and you see it's bad, or vice versa if it's good.
So, you just want to see the game with Starfield. There's a lot of commentary about the gameplay that they show, and
it's all scripted every time they show stuff like that, though.
Sure. Doc Dark, friend of the show, he's been on here a couple times with you and me. He and I agree that we want to see Xbox Series X gameplay. Yes. Yep. My commentary the other day sent us down a wasted 20-minute rabbit hole of debating the power of the Series S, because I was telling people that I don't think Xbox Showcase or even the Starfield Direct, I don't feel like they can focus on power. I don't feel like they can focus on the Series X and how strong it is, because most of the console consumers in that ecosystem are on the Series S. And I think Starfield, I don't think Starfield will have a 60 FPS mode on the Series S. I don't think it'll be possible. The draw distances in areas are too big.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Given that reality, what do you think about the gameplay that we do get to see? Or the gameplay, are you wanting raw? Are you wanting Series X? What do you think they show us?
I think if they do this in Fantasy World here, first of all, I think it's going to be 30 frames per second, even on the X when it comes out. Okay?
Really?
I do. I think it's going to be 30 frames per second. But maybe the time it launches, maybe they'll show us that build. Maybe it'll be 60 frames. But if it is 60 frames, they have to show it running on the Series X, not the PC, right? Because obviously we know it could run at a higher frame rate on PC. Okay, they have to show it on the X. And if Todd comes out on stage and shows Starfield Xbox on stage, I joke about this, and goes up to it and pulls the plug, so you know it's running from the actual Xbox, right? It's coming from the actual Xbox Series X at 60 frames per second. I think that's a win for them. I think everything after that point, everyone will be like, "Oh, this is amazing," right? If it comes out and it's running at 30 frames, everyone's like, "Oh, what a joke," right? Like that's what's going to happen. Let's be honest with the crowd, the 1%ers, the ones that are tuned in, not the everyday consumer, because everyday consumer is not watching this like we are. You know what I mean? They're just watching, going, "Cool, space game. I'm interested in that. I'll pick it up," right? But for everybody else, we want to know if it's 60 frames per second. I hope it's 60 frames per second, but I don't think it will. I think they'll say that it's coming out at 60 frames per second, but at a later date. I don't think it's going to launch. Or maybe they do 60 frames on Xbox Series X, and obviously not the S, because the S just can't do it.
I am confident that they won't get 60 FPS out of this game on the S. But man, oh man, I cannot see this game not having 60 FPS on the Series X. And I think that's a quandary for them. Because I argued, I still think my logic holds, but now I'm questioning myself. My logic was, Phil Spencer wouldn't have allowed the question about 60 FPS on Kind of Funny. We didn't get permission about questions. Shh. Stop that. You did a pre-interview. I've never seen a show like this without a pre-interview. You knew you were allowed to ask that question. Cut the crap, all right? So they knew they were allowed to ask a question about 60 FPS. They didn't put him on blast with that question. Phil was okay with that. Phil was locked and ready to go. He knew that question was coming. He immediately said, yep, that you're going to hear about 60 FPS at the Starfield Direct. I don't think you'd let them talk about it if you can't confirm 60. That would be the death blow to the day. Amazing showcase. Here comes Starfield. And they're like, it would be a real shame if the only headline out of today is no 60 FPS for Starfield.
That's exactly what will happen, though. They could tell you how many plants and how good the game is and all this stuff, and everyone will run with the headline, not 60 frames per second.
But that's why I think it will be. I don't think they would allow it to be said. They wouldn't address the question. They wouldn't mention it. If it wasn't 60, they wouldn't bring it up.
But then does it come off worse? The game's out now. Digital Foundry gets the game, they put it in the thing, and it doesn't hit 60 frames per second. Then they're called liars.
Well, that's where I'm arguing with myself. I'm arguing with myself because it's like if they highlight that it is 60 FPS,
and then it's not.
but they have to make mention of that it'll be 60 FPS on the X and not on the S. Is that an okay thing optics wise? Because everyone's like, oh, the people on the S don't care. And I'm like, okay, sure. Everybody that bought a Series S doesn't care that it was supposed to be a 1440 box with up to 120 frames per second. That's how you marketed it. It's a 1440 box that's capable of up to 120 FPS, and your flagship title is going to hit 30. And you think that audience is going to be okay with that?
See, I think it's compartmentalized into two things, right? First, we want to hear, is it running 60 frames per second? Everyone's like, okay, it's running 60 frames per second. We're excited. Then it moves on to the next thing. Okay, the game's out. We're running it, but it's not running at 60 frames per second. It's running under 60 frames per second. It's like at 45 or 50 frames per second, and people are going to be pissed because it's not running at 60 frames as they said, right? So it's like, what do you do? Do you come out and say it's 60 frames per second, and then it doesn't really run at 60 frames per second on the X? It's under, because there's plenty of other games that come out and say they're 60 frames per second, and then Digital Foundry and then other people do tests, and they're like, yeah, I had dips down into the 19s and into the 20s, and you're like, ooh, okay. What happened to this on the stage where you said it was 60 frames per second? You know what I mean? So I don't know what's worse. Do you say that it's not 60 frames and then going into it's not 60 frames, and then they say they're bringing 60 frames because that kind of softens the blow? You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's a big L if they come out and say it's 30 frames per second. I mean, it is. It's a big L.
It's just a landmine field because Gotham Knights wasn't even that big of a game, and their announcement was made quietly. Their announcement was made quietly in a Discord, and
we got 30 frames per second.
Yeah, and they knew it was going to be bad press, because when Paul, a member of our community, he asked the question in the Discord, he was instantly timed out. And so they were on guard. They were literally on marching orders. If anybody asks about 60 FPS, you ban them. You time them out. We don't want anybody to know. And obviously, that was gas on a fire. It was the Streisand effect. It was like, no. You can't keep this quiet now. They saw the guy ask the question. They saw him get timed out. That's a fairly straightforward question. Is there going to be a 60 FPS mode or not? And then it hits Redfall, and now Starfield's staring down that barrel. They're staring down the barrel of a cannon. If we can't say we're 60 FPS, that's a terrible headline for your game. That's not just bad for the game. That's bad for Xbox.
Yeah, I hate to be on that side, because obviously people want to know if it's 60 frames per second, and then they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. Because if they say it is and then it comes out and it's not hitting it, then they look like fools. And if they say it's not, then they look like fools right away, right? So do you want to look like a fool up front, or do you want to look like a fool down the road? So
I think for the sake of a showcase, and for the sake of
60 frames.
Yeah. I think for the sake of the showcase and for the sake of market confidence, they confirm 60 FPS.
Get big cheers. Woo! Yeah.
And then there'll be a little
frames.
It'll be like that. These games you can expect in the next 12 months, and then there's a little asterisk down at the bottom.
Yeah, the little asterisk.
It says targeting. It'll be like targeting 60
Yeah, we have 60 frames per second. And then there's that announcement, may not run 60 frames per second on the in certain things.
Yeah. Targeting 60 frames per second on the Xbox Series X only. Series S will only run at 30 FPS.
Yeah.
Void where prohibited. those disclaimers always end with void where prohibited. Yeah. Void where prohibited.
May not work in your area.
Yeah. So I'm pulling for him. I'm like, come on, boys, land it. Stick this landing. This game is super important. We need that 60 FPS. We got to see that raw gameplay. I think we wake up Monday morning and say, Xbox did it. They nailed it. They're back. They're fighting back. It was a showcase to be remembered. That's my hope. I want to wake up Monday morning and do a breakdown and be like, yo, Xbox is back. Like, they're back in the fight. They were down on the canvas for 18 months, but they're back up and they're swinging hard and they're swinging heavy. And I think this could be a good year for them.
Look, I hope so. I mean, either way, I don't lose sleep over it. So, if a game is good, it's good. And if a game is bad, it's bad. I still get my hours of sleep when I put my head on my pillow because I don't root for one plastic box or the other. I'm just looking for good games.
Same. I go where the games are. It just so happens that the lean in the last couple of years has been heavy to PlayStation, and it's not my fault. I can't make up games for that ecosystem to draw me over there. Right. I gave Halo a go. I really gave it a go.
Yeah, if you make a game, I'll either buy it or play it. Yeah, one of the way or the other. And if you don't make a good game, I'm not interested. So that's the way it works.
Well, chat, we're not done yet. We have more planned for the day. And if you upgrade to VIP, you can come with us. You guys hit the VIP goal of 300. And I will be playing Returnal with Creature in a moment. We'll do a little debrief with Creature in 30 while I eat before we do that with VIP. So you have time to upgrade. You're also 48 members away from getting a Lono Cook emote. I remembered I have an emote that I can give you called Lono Cook. So you have a little bit of time. You guys went absolutely crazy. You unlocked the beard shave. You guys went massive today and yesterday.
Oh, man.
It's
beard
happening.
Shave.
Yeah, it's happening. I'm
gonna cry?
No, I'll be all right.
A little tear?
I've done the mustache a couple of times, so I think I'll be okay. My top lip hasn't been naked in a long time, so it'll be interesting. Maybe I look like a mole under here. I don't know. Maybe I'm hideous.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It's just gonna be white, like your skin color.
All of a sudden, I look like an old man without his dentures or something. Now, I'm not doing Tribeca. I don't think Tribeca is something within our purview. So if you can't come to VIP, do not forget, we had a huge surge in members. Tonight, we're calling it Friday Night with Madam. It's no longer called Game Night because we're going to kick off every Friday night just hanging out and talking with Madam. You can determine what game we play later in the evening, though, by tuning in tonight as a member. So every single member should be here tonight for that. And then tomorrow, we'll kick off the morning with the UB Forward stream. I'll set the expectations for UB Forward that happens on Monday, and then we'll do Future Game Show. Mike, what are you doing? What's the coverage? Where can they find you?
You can find me on normal schedule Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning till noon Eastern, and then 8 o'clock at night to about midnight. That's Monday through Thursday. We do a podcast on Thursday nights called Generation X Gaming. I am covering the Tribeca thing, so if you want to come watch that, you can have me on one screen or one window, and you can have Lono on the other window as you're doing Returnal. We'll be covering the Tribeca, and I also will be covering all the other gaming events, Future Game Show, PC Game Show, and Xbox Game Show. So I'll be covering those this weekend as well.
Yeah, and I'm all paid up on the members that I owe you guys. Thank you, Henry Heck. Guys, make sure and check out Mike. He's linked below in the description. You can just look him up at 30NSG. He'll be covering Tribeca. VIPs can come with us to the next segment, to the next stream, if you want to upgrade. And Henry Heck just gifted one to Leanna Cummings. So again, just a reminder, if you're a member, there is a stream tonight at Friday nights at 8 p.m. We're calling it Friday Nights with Madam. And you have time right now to upgrade to VIP. I'm going to actually do a redirect to the VIP stream. I'll also give you guys a link, and it should prompt you to need to upgrade. And if you can't come with us, it's just the only thing we do in the week that's not for all members. And then it's a double header, right? We do VIP in the afternoon, but tonight is for everybody, okay? So make sure you're in the Discord so that way you don't miss out on the content, okay? There's an upgrade command. Nightbot will walk you through how to do it. Commando G-Man just upgraded. Thank you. You guys are the absolute best. Let me launch the VIP stream first. Thank you so much for being a VIP. If you saw this, if it was in your feed, we're celebrating. I'm going to be doing a bit of a debrief, hanging out for a teeny bit, maybe kind of eating my lunch, and then I'll be playing Returnal with Creature because you guys did it. You hit 300 VIPs. Don't forget Friday nights are now Friday Night with Madam. So if you're a member, get in the Discord. You can determine what we play on Friday nights. We'll always open Friday nights with more of a talk show now, just kind of hanging out with Madam and talking. We already did a stream with Mike. If you want to go watch that past broadcast, we debated about Summer Game Fest kickoff with Keighley. We went through the whole showcase. It was a great, great show with Mike. You didn't get much discussion from me this morning because you guys kind of overtook the stream. So I'm going to end that stream and redirect everybody over. But yeah, this morning,